I'm Michael Heralda. I am a graphic artist and a musician. I've been an artist since I was about 6 years old, when I realized that I could get the attention of my parents if I drew funny pictures. So I've always had that interest, and I grew up in a family that was full of musicians. So music was always around, all self-taught musicians, and I'm a self-taught musician as well. So I have every bad habit a musician can have, but it doesn't stop me from creating and composing music. I've been a graphic artist for over 40 years. Uh, I worked at Mattel, which is a toy company, for 28 years as a graphic designer, and I designed graphics for Hot Wheels and Matchbox, the little die-cast models. And when I retired from Mattel in 2015, I held the record for most designs on a car. I had over 5,000, and that was in 2015. Since then, other graphic designers have already beat me, but I still freelance. So I'm still a freelancer for Mattel. So now I'm probably getting close to 6,000 designs. But I also design all kinds of crazy stuff, uh, just because I can. Anything from puzzles to T-shirts to posters, um, cards, deck of cards, whatever fills my fancy. And so I've been very fortunate that people have allowed me to do what I feel passionate about. As I mentioned, I was a musician, I was a touring artist. For about 20 years, I shared a cultural program on the Mexica Aztec people. And that allowed me and my family to tour across the US for decades. And when COVID hit, that killed all our tours. I mean, I did a few Zoom presentations, but because our programs were interactive and we would bring about 40 to 50 handmade indigenous instruments, it didn't it didn't work with Zoom because I didn't have that interaction with the audience. So pretty much my touring and performing has stopped. But occasionally I will do a program for the right audience with the right theme. One of my favorite programs is on the origins of Dia de los Muertos. And I developed that program about 9 years ago for the main reason that I felt that it was starting to become a commercialized entity. And I was concerned that people wouldn't understand the true meaning of how we celebrate death and life. And so, with the help of people in Mexico who are very knowledgeable with indigenous knowledge and oral tradition stories, my wife and I put together this program that we shared for about a dozen years. It's still one of my favorite programs. But because I've been so deeply involved in the culture of the Mexica Aztec people in Mexico, that's my connection to Tlaxcalelo. We met a number of years ago, even when I was still living in Los Angeles. But after we moved here, we started keeping in touch. And he contacted me about this event and saying, your work is different than most people, most artists, because most people are either sculpting or painting or they're some mixed media. He goes, but you're these little tiny little gems that focus on the Mexica culture. He goes, so that would be a good addition to this event. And that's how my pieces got in this show. But and I'm very grateful because it introduces my work to a different audience. And I think it kind of might spark some ideas that you can work on a small scale and create something that's meaningful, symbolic, philosophical, that people can relate to, like all art. I tell people because I make a lot of instruments, and I'll tell them as a musician, as an artist, as a dancer, as a creator, essentially you're a storyteller. And it's important to infuse your art with symbolism, oral stories, philosophy, spirituality, because then the piece becomes more than a three-dimensional object. There's meaning. And I used to tell listeners to our presentations, young people, because we do a lot of school presentations, I said, as an artist, think of your work as an onion. And they would go, what? An onion, you see an onion, you know what it's for, in some way you're going to consume it. It's food for your body to sustain you. But when you have that onion in your hand and you start to prepare it, you're going to start peeling back layers. So the first layer is what attracted to you. This is a good looking onion. I'm going to eat it. But as you unravel it, it's layer after layer after layer. And that's what your art needs to be. It needs to be filled with these underlying layers so that when someone sees it for first time, they get this picture. Oh, I like it. The composition, the colors, the subject matter. That's what drew me to it. But then the more you look at it, you start seeing these subtle things that are there, symbolism. And what is that? You do a little research and go, oh my God, you know what this represents? You know the true story behind this? But you've engaged that person. And that's what I would do in my little cars. I would embed little hidden messages, symbols, something so that they buy the car because, I always like the Nissan Skyline. That's one of my favorite cars. I'm going to buy every one I see. But then when they see the decoration, what is this? And they start to be engaged with it. It's not a little car to roll around anymore. It's something that you're now connecting to. And that's what art is. As an artist, you're a storyteller. And as an artist, you're essentially a mirror. You reflect what you see, what you're exposed to. And I think right now we're in a very unusual situation. We're in a very nervous place because we really don't know what's going to happen. And as an artist, it's not something that you make because someone's going to pay you to do a job. It's because you have something to say. And you're using this medium, whatever it is, to say what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're going to reflect back to people. And so you really are concerned about what's going on in the peripheral when you're in that creative moment. And this is like the best place to be. When you lose track of time because you're so engaged, you're creating something that is coming from not only here, but it's coming from the creator. All the energy, everything that has ever existed still exists in a form of energy that you can draw on. And artists have that capability of seeing things, and feeling things. And so to put it out there, it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter if somebody says, this is horrible, or this is disgusting, or this is profane. It doesn't matter. The thing is, you've expressed yourself, and whatever happens, you have no control. You only control what goes on in your head and what you create. So in these times, it's political. I don't really like to talk too much about the politics because there is a great divide. And one of the things that I learned in my cultural presentations, depending on the perspective or point of view that you presented, you can create a divide. You can create barriers. And I realized at an early point in our presentations that that's not the point. The point is to share something that you are open to listen to and to absorb. And if it's a different perspective and you present it in a way that they can relate to, it can change their opinion about things. And that's essentially what art is.